Hi Timo, I was just going to ask you, you've obviously played in the Champions League before with your former club. You know what it takes to reach later rounds and drive on to be successful in this competition. Does Chelsea have the sort of squad and the depth of players to go deep into this competition?
With this, we have the goal to come very far in this competition, and I think we are not here to say, okay, we want to come in the next round and then we will see. No, we are here to win in the next year the Champions League.
So Timo Werner thinks he can win the Champions League. Chelsea are in a very good spot, fighting Porto in the quarterfinals. The question we are asking today: is Timo Werner a flop for Chelsea if he brings the Champions League back to London? That is the question. So let's dive in, have a study, find out some information between Timo Werner and previous signings, and then we're going to really hammer home his stats and find out if the money invested by Chelsea Football Club on Timo Werner and the return of the Champions League becomes worth it. So we all know that Timo Werner has not had the greatest start at Chelsea. His life at Stamford Bridge has been marred with open goal misses, easy chances that have been squandered, and just all-round bad performances. But we believe there has been a guy that's come to Chelsea and done something very similar and delivered when it mattered. And that's what we're going to ask today. If Timo steps up for Chelsea in, say, the quarters or the semis or even the final of the Champions League and does something that we know he's capable of, Chelsea wouldn't have paid all that money for him to bring him to Stamford Bridge if they didn't see something there. So if he does do that and he does step up at that crucial time, has that redeemed him? Has that made Timo Werner worth all that money? That is what we're going to dive into today. We all know over the years Chelsea have had a spotted past when it comes to signing players, and especially when it comes to signing strikers. From players like Gonzalo Higuain to Alvaro Morata to the worldly Shevchenko and then the up-and-coming Alexandre Pato. These are guys that they spent fortunes to bring to Stamford Bridge on the expectation they were going to deliver and take Chelsea 2 titles, 2 Champions Leagues, 2 FA Cups, all of those things, and they all failed. Now, why is that? What is it about Stamford Bridge and big signing strikers that just does not seem to work? And we're going to talk about the biggest guy of them all, Fernando Torres. He is the perfect case study when it comes to the Timo Werner at Chelsea debate. So he's done something very similar. He came from a club that was on form, killing it, scoring goals for fun, and he had a big money move from that club to Chelsea Football Club on the expectation that trophies will come. And obviously, we all know how Torres' time at Chelsea went. It was very spotted. He barely got on the score sheet. He was deemed a flop. Then he does this against Barcelona.
Torres is away,
and he's on chance. One-on-one with Valdez to send Chelsea to the Champions League final. Fernando Torres has done it. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable.
What a goal. Fernando Torres, what a chance. He's taken it so well.
And we all know what happened when they got to the final. So that goal alone changed people's opinion, especially at Chelsea, of Fernando Torres, because he was brought in to do a job. He came in to win the Champions League. And what did he do? He won the Champions League. Was it a waste of money? I don't know. Did he underperform? Yes. But did he come there and do the job that he was paid to do? Yes. So this is what we want to know about Timo Werner. Sure, Chelsea's season's been spotty. You know, they've had a manager change from Frank Lampard to Thomas Tuchel. There's been a drastic underperformance from this team, especially after all the money that was invested in this team. So, the question is, even with all of these underlying issues and the goals not being scored and the forward line being chopped around and the team's basically being flipped from that manager change. If Timo pops up against Porto and then say against Liverpool or Real Madrid in the semis and does something similar to Torres, does that redeem him? Does that redeem his season and Chelsea's investment? That's what I want to know. This is where we're going to break down and find out if Timo Werner can do this for Chelsea and take them to the Champions League final and win it. Because right now they are looking very hard to beat, and it might just be written in the stars and in the future and in the past. As we know, Timo came with a very hefty price tag, and as I've been saying, he's very reminiscent of the Fernando Torres transfer. He came in from Leipzig for 48 mil. Torres from Liverpool for 50. Him and Kai Havertz were the two guys, the pin-up poster boys of German football for last season, and Chelsea snapped their backs to get both of these guys in. And look at that signing, the most expensive signings Chelsea have ever made. Both of these fall within the top 10 signings for Chelsea football. So we need to determine whether or not $48 million is worth a Champions League. That's the question though. How much money is too much money? Does Man City care how much money they invest to get a Champions League back to the Etihad? Or does it not matter? Is the money irrelevant and the title is all that matters? Because Timo Werner is a world-class striker. We've seen it. He was on fire at Leipzig. Took them all the way deep into the Champions League last year. And then he left. And then they fell apart. So, bringing him to Chelsea was a no-brainer. Having him there is what they needed. They needed that killer striker, that guy up front who will not miss. But this season he spent the whole time missing. So what do they need to do? How do they make it work? Or is it just written in the stars that Timo Werner is going to pop up in that semi-final against, say, a Liverpool and reenact the early 2000s semi-finals of Chelsea and Liverpool, and that, infamous ghost goal of Luis Garcia and those kind of things, those big hitouts that we had in the Champions League, and change the tide? Is it gonna be the guy that Liverpool almost signed that changes the written story, that Chelsea finally get one over Liverpool in the Champions League and takes themselves to another final? Is this what's gonna happen? Timo Werner is no pushover when it comes to being a striker. He came from Leipzig with high expectations. His reputation in the Bundesliga was one of the best strikers, only behind players like Haaland and Lewandowski. He was their guy. He comes to Chelsea and he's been having a weird old time, but we have seen flashes of his brilliance this season. As you can see, some of the goals that he scores are classic striker goals. Poaching around the 6-yard box or running in behind off that left-hand side and smashing great goals. So can this be the thing that helps Chelsea get past, say, Porto and Liverpool or Real Madrid? Is this the guy that's going to be the guy that stands up when it really matters? Is this what it takes? Is it the trial by fire season that is needed, and he's going to get to this point in the Champions League when a ball falls to him in the right position and he slots it, and that's it? That's what sparks the fire inside Timo Werner? Only time will tell. We're not too far away from the Champions League knockout stages again continuing, so we will see this. But let's break down his stats from his previous seasons. So when it comes to talking about first seasons in the Premier League, there is no other person you should compare that to than Mohamed Salah. If there's a picture of a perfect season in your new team in the Premier League, Mohamed Salah for Liverpool was that picture. 36 games, 32 goals, 10 assists. That was an amazing season, breaking all of the records along the way. This season though, for Timo, 28 games, he's only scored 5 goals and 5 assists. And the big standout stats there he's only taken 61 shots in 28 games and 16 big chances missed already. That's a lot of missed chances and not a lot of shots. These are the stats that matter when it comes to winning titles and trophies. These are the things that need to be improved. But are we being too harsh on poor old Timo? When it comes to a comparison against other strikers who have deemed to have a decent season, such as Danny Ings for Southampton in 2018 and 19, where he played 24 games and got 7 goals and 3 assists, and that was deemed to be not bad. Are we just being too hard on him because he was worth $50 million? Is that the problem? Look at the stats here, they're not too dissimilar. Granted, the big chances is halved, that's fine, but the shots are very similar, the goals and the assists are very similar, and the world said that Danny Ings had a decent season. So are we just being rough on poor old Timo? Well, maybe we are, but when we compare him against himself in his last season at Leipzig, the numbers speak for themselves. 33 games, 28 goals, 8 assists. This was the player that Chelsea thought they were buying. And they got the 5 goals, 5 assists player. It was already there though. That 24 big missed chances. That was already a stat that was already highlighted. And maybe a reason Liverpool didn't pull the trigger on him and spend a lot of money to bring him in. Maybe they saw something Chelsea did not. But does that matter? The guy that misses the big chances is because he's in the right spot at the right time. And it just comes down to his confidence. So maybe he turns up at the right time in the right game. Such as a certain someone, Fernando Torres, in that 2011-2012 season. His stats are almost identical to Timo's. 6 goals, 4 assists, 66 shots, and again, 7 missed chances. But, as I said, he turned up when it mattered. That goal against Barca was all that mattered. It took them to the final where they needed to be, and they did what they needed to do in that final. So is this what's going to happen this year with Timo? Is it going to be a replication of the Fernando Torres story? Or is the big missed chances going to cost Chelsea? And that's going to cost them a lot of money. Since taking over at Chelsea, Thomas Tuchel has made a drastic improvement to this team. After the 10 games in charge that he has had in the Premier League, he has only drawn 4 of them, lost none, and won the rest. He has flipped the Chelsea team almost on its head. Players that were playing under Lampard have been benched, and players that were seemingly thought to be in the cold and lost forever have been played. And as you can see here, their percentages have changed drastically. But also, as you can see in that graph, Timo Werner has stayed almost the same. 67% times started under Tuchel and 79 under Lampard. So somewhere along the lines, both managers see something in this player. What is it? I don't know, but it must be something that's deeper. It must be a game changer. As the media says, it was a good call to replace Lampard with Thomas Tuchel. After 10 games, his record is very impressive. He's faced tougher opposition. He's displayed tactical nuances that Lampard did not offer. He's afforded nearly as much game time to youngsters as Lampard, and that was the thing that was being pinned up by the reporters that Lampard was doing. He has flipped Chelsea from being an underperforming, underwhelming team to a team that is now well and truly fighting for the top 4 and has put themselves in a very, very good position in the Champions League. As you can see, Chelsea's run to the final looks very nice. You couldn't ask for a better side of the table. Porto in the quarterfinals, you'd expect Chelsea at this point in time, who are not conceding goals, and they're still struggling to score goals, but they're still winning most games. So you would expect them to get past Porto with some relevant ease, considering Porto have a few bans in that first game. So then they line up against two giants of the Champions League, Liverpool and Real Madrid. And no matter what stage and position in the table these two teams are, you cannot write them off. They are always going to perform well in the Champions League. This is what they are built for. They are Champions League royalty. So is it going to be another semi-final chance against Liverpool? So another Liverpool-Chelsea Champions League semi? Is it going to be heartbreak again? Or are they going to line up against the illustrious, falling apart, old man Real Madrid team who have somehow gotten themselves to this position even though their group stages were terrible? Are they going to be up against one of these two teams? Both of them are having, not great seasons, so they're not in the best of form, so Chelsea couldn't ask for a better run. And then to line up against obviously one of the big three, of Man City, Bayern and Paris in a final. Is this the redemption that Thomas Tuchel was looking for? Is it really going to come down to Paris versus Chelsea in the final, or Bayern versus Chelsea in the final? Those two games alone are just stories written around Thomas Tuchel, obviously losing last year's final to Bayern and obviously being sacked by Paris. These things are things that he would love. Best manager in the world in Pep Guardiola. To finish him off in a final, would that put a stamp on Thomas Tuchel's name saying, give me some respect? This is what it's heading for? Any way you look at this, Chelsea are in a position to really fight for this title. And any way you look at it, Timo Werner is going to be involved in some capacity. So the question I ask you guys today, if Chelsea win the Champions League and Timo Werner does something, I don't know what that something is, an assist, an amazing game, bangs in the winner in the semis or the final, does that make the signing of Timo Werner worth it? That is the question. I want to know what you guys think. I think this is too perfectly written in the stars, too much similarities to the Fernando Torres signing to be a coincidence. I see this thing, semi-finals, Liverpool versus Chelsea. I've seen it before. The guy that's underperforming, the guy that nobody's watching, the guy that everybody has doubts on is going to be the guy that steps up and puts Chelsea in the final. And in a final, we all know anything can happen. We've seen the 2005 Liverpool comeback. We've seen last year's Bayern Munich PSG deadlock. And we've seen the terrible Liverpool versus Spurs final that was over within 5 minutes. So we know anything can happen in a final. So is this the year? Is this the guy that Chelsea paid all this money to bring in just to bring this title back to London and solidify themselves as the best London-based club? Only time will tell. Let me know what you guys think below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you like this kind of content. I'm going to be breaking down other things that I find interesting as the time goes on. So keep your eyes open. Let me know what you think. If there's a particular player or game or scenario or thing that people are discussing that you want to know about, let me know. I'll break it down, give you my opinion, ask the questions, because I want to know what the answers will be. Until next time, this has been Jazzman. It's been great, and I'll see you in the next video.